You know, it's almost like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. So this is actually what we're getting inside the package. A lot of different components, because this is quite on the looks kit, complete with light guns and everything else. But how is this when it comes to the competition? So let's start off with the controllers. I'm quite disappointed already. And the reason why, not because of the two controller, one, let's say USB configuration, no, simply because they are giving you the cheap ones. This is absolutely like those chemical ones I personally really hate. Very cheap feel, no rumble function. Yeah, they should improve it, but I understand this is an arcade board, so I'm guessing they don't want to have the focus on, let's say, the controller configuration. They just want you to plug this thing into arcade machine, and these things are just extra. Okay, so the most important thing, the heart of the machine, the PC, because that's actually what they're using. The first impression is not positive because there was something loose in it. So we're going to be opening it up because we need to see what is in the inside also. But let's see what it comes to the connection. So this thing, you can just clearly see it's made for putting in an arcade machine through all the holes over here, so you can just screw it in your arcade machine. So this is the special connection for the bottom, two USBs over here. And I think these were like for the light guns. Nevertheless, we're going to be looking into the manual. Always double check it because they were like indicating everything. The HDMI, VGA, we're having another 4 ports and the RG45. The even and separate audio jack and the input for the power supply. But let's open up this thing and let's see what we're getting in the inside. Okay, so the previous one I've reviewed was complete in an arcade stick. We have different configurations here, and the downside to these things, they are very expensive, because that is the thing with these, like say, special unique made things. There was only a screw in here, so that is not a big of a deal. So do I have like a loose screw? Not that I know of. I do see they implemented in Vimeo with only one bracket, so that's kind of weird. But this is the configuration of the mini PC. They're using, let's say, basic stuff. It's a single, let's say, DIMM, so you cannot upgrade it with a dual slot. It's kind of a bummer because you cannot like have a dual configuration faster speed. So when it comes to the MSATA drive or the SSD, they're using fast speed. Never heard of it. Don't know if it's going to be a very good one. Nevertheless, this is actually what we're having in the inside. It's quite interesting configuration. What I find interesting that they didn't even put the cable for the special connector all the way on there. So I'm just going to leave it as it. I'm going to be leaving it as it is. But if this doesn't work, this means I'm going to be connecting it on the full pin connector. Yeah. How about the controls and how everything works? At first I was afraid that something was going to be wrong simply because the way of its very strange configuration having PC that's actually made for arcade machine. But in here we're finding an absolutely great overall configuration. I need to put in the lock mode, otherwise it didn't, let's say, recognize the controller. I've tried an Xbox 360 and yep, it seems to be working, but we do miss some features. So maybe I need to mess around a little bit more, because when you're pressing, let's say, the right joystick, over here we can navigate to the main menu and going all the way back that we have seen with Pandora's boxes. About the Pandora Gun Max menu, it's kind of messy like the previous model. So having the 3D and 2-dimensional list, personally I hate this, simply because it makes no sense whatsoever, because the 3-dimensional also have just 2-dimensional games. In here we do have the icon showcasing that we have a lot of different light guns, even including Virtual Cop 1 and 2. So where we have, like say, some basic, let's say, retro shooter or Pandora's Box Standard Edition has some limitation due to the power. This thing doesn't have any issues with some other games that we didn't see before in those, I say, cheaper solutions. And that's absolutely great. Where we don't have like thousands or something like light guns, no, that's not the case. The menu, they should improve it. Think about the Pandora's Box 10 or the Pandora Game 3D. That works so much more convenient. But let's go all the way up to the top, having the 2-dimensional games. Also here we can find even some extra light gun games. And yep, we have a favorite list, a history, and the search. And with the search in here, we're finding just a simple way to search for our games, of course. And let's see if we can implement a letter. Yeah, always like figuring out how everything works over here. But if you're going to put in the Sonic, you can just see that it searches all the Sonic games. So that part works great. In here we're having the categories, Sega Dreamcast, N64, but with this particular machine I don't expect any problems with N64, and I think also with PlayStation Portable. So that is what we're going to be also dedicating this video to. Categories over here, shooting, puzzle, and also of course the light gun. So if you want to have all the light guns on one page, you can just search for it, and that's it actually. Alright, so pressing the left analog stick in here, we're finding the Pandora Gun Max special menu. We're having the key settings, coin. Here we can set everything set to free play. Only the LightGun games I've not noticed that we did need to put in some credits. We still have that weird like naming of graphic mode. Say like filter, no filter, game settings, and the restore factory settings. There's nothing much we can actually mess around with. So it's very limited for such an expensive and looks product. But first let's focus on the normal games. So if you want to get into some 8-bit, 16-bit, you don't need to buy such an expensive product, because the simple product like a normal one more arcade product or a retro shooter can play them all just fine. But I just want to implement them in the video. So let's look through the list of PC Engine. If there's anything else that I wanted to showcase over here, we have a Bomberman, all kinds of cool games over here. Everything has a preview picture, or at least a video. That seems to be working all fine. Ooh, Darius Plus. That's absolutely great game. I also have this on my PC Engine. A downside is that we cannot actually use any aspect ratio shizzle going on over here. The weird thing is that we always need the button for the second control. Let's see, the analog stick is only configured to the gaming over here. Let's remove the analog configuration, and indeed I can use a D-pad now, so that seems to be working all fine. Holding the right joystick on the second controller should be the way out. Oh, there we go. It also adjusted the volume, as you can see over here, because it's running on Windows. Yeah, so the weird thing is, like, I need to put the analog on, otherwise I cannot navigate. So, you know, it's kind of messy, to be honest, that we need to toggle analog on and off, depending how you actually want to play. Exit the game, and that's actually how it works. Okay, so let's go back into some more stuff like the Mega Drive, and let's take a closer look at these games. Oh, it's going to be in the 6x9 crazy widescreen resolution chisel. Let's start off with some Mega Drive. I just want to hear the soundtracks. So I'm using the analog stick now. Okay, I'm trying to search what button I need to use. Alright, so that seems to be configured to a 3-button situation. Okay, so let's remove the analog now. So we can use the D-pad, but oh man, like the D-pad is so difficult to play with, because you need to push it in really hard. Oh, this is not going to be a pleasant experience. But the overall emulation seems to be working just fine, so when it comes to that, no problem whatsoever. So what we need to do is figuring out how I can add new controllers to this 1 and 2 player, and we also have all of the, let's say, shortcuts, so we can go back to the main menu. Okay, next up we are using the Game Boy Advance emulator, and they didn't implement any pixel filter. We can do this in the menu, or the special menu, where we can configure that. It will look a little bit better on bigger screen, because this is some widescreen craziness. I must say that I actually can really enjoy it on this analog stick of the controller. Alright, there we go. Whew. So when it comes to the PlayStation 1 part, this system is capable of running it without any problem. The only thing I do wonder is, like, are they using more like an, let's say now we're playing I think a native resolution, but this PC is able to run it on maybe 1080p. So that's one of those things you cannot adjust. Another thing they keep messing up is that they not implementing, let's say, the original soundtracks. It's kind of a bummer, because that is absolutely like such a shame if they keep doing that, and we have seen it many times before, but it's just like a hit or miss. Some Pandora's boxes or C machines don't have the problem at all, and machines like these that cost like a fortune, they're still doing it. And to save space, that's the most stupid thing, because you can just slap in a 2 TB SSD and have like massive space that you can basically add a lot of different games to. So let's start off with some PlayStation Portable and the change of kinkiness with God of War. And the reason why is because this is a game that also has struggles with the cheaper Pandora's boxes. And with the mini PC we don't have this issue. I cannot see if they implemented anything like a frame skip. The button seems to be configured like the original controller, so that is great. But so far I do see some minor hiccups going on, but maybe that has to do with the loading. But besides that, you can just see that everything seems to be running just fine. So that is just great. And this is one of those first devices that can actually play the Killer Instinct, the real MAME version. So that is absolutely awesome. I'm always like saying that it cannot be run on, let's say, the Pandora's box, but we could actually use it on the Gun 4 Max thing. So that's absolutely an awesome addition, and that is thanks to having a mini PC in here. And I'm almost getting my ass kicked by this game. But shall we move to part number 2 to see if this runs also equally that good. The Killer Instinct 2 game seems to be working. The weird thing is that I'm having this weird thing that I need to get into the credit mode pressing the joystick on the right. So that's kind of weird. So far we have absolutely great overall performance. So yep, no problem there. I'm always like saying that with the Killer Instinct we're having those, let's say, Tekken games, but with Tekken, no, we're not going to get any Tekken games that are enabled of the MAME. It's kind of a downside because the MAME games of Tekken are absolutely great, but you can just see we're having the Tekken versions and the PlayStation without any music. So move on to the N64. I do see some minor glitching going on, but this is not going to be forming an issue in the general overall gameplay. So we shouldn't be afraid of having problems with N64, but let's see what button they configure for acceleration. But yep, we do have some great performance here. We have seen this with cheap mini PCs too and Batacera. Oh man, this joystick is really sensitive. Too sensitive in my opinion. Can we move to the D-pad? Yep, oh yeah, that's much better. So again, I need to press the analog button to switch between D-pad and analog, but we need to do that at the same time. Or we need to do the same thing. It's going to be in the main menu, otherwise we cannot navigate. Ugh. Ooh. So what is very convenient with this particular light gun, that we have a D-pad implemented in this, so we can just navigate through the menu and we don't need the controllers. I think the only way we need the controllers, or let's say the jammer or the jammer handlers, is that we're going to be going back to the main menu. But besides that, so far I know everything seems to be working just fine, and we can just boot it up and play. Alright, so let's move on to the Judge Dredd game, and this is actually the PlayStation version. So when it comes to the light guns, this works plug and play. If you're going to be pressing the joysticks over there, yeah, sometimes you need to wait before it's going to be switching between the joystick and the light guns, but everything seems to be working just fine. You can see that there is a crosshair on the screen of player 2. You can maybe remove them when it comes to configuration, going back to, let's say, the Windows setup. I'm just going to be leaving them as is, because I don't really be bothered by it. But in combination with the solenoids, the light gun feature works absolutely great. Alright, so when it comes to this particular game, normally you're having the machine gun going on. I also have this on my Sharkade machine, but normally should configure the solenoid go all ape shit when it comes to this game. But you just have one single click and that's it. So what I understand, some systems like Retro Shooter had the option to easily switch, so pressing a certain kind of buttons, but that is not possible over here. So we can just move around and play like that with actually no solenoid. Okay, so let's go into some NES games. Oh man, just a super basic game. Let's see how it actually works out. I've personally never played this. I did notice there's a lot of difference between the audio levels in general. So this is, by the way, the arcade game, not the PlayStation version. I did see this game on cheaper boxes so far. But also this seems to be running just fine. Oh! Oh yeah, but I did complete the stage. Oh, losing a heart. I hit the bomb. There we go. Let's go with some confidential mission. This is such a cool game. They also use this on the Pandora box 10 and the, I think, retro shooter. So this is actually not a game that you need an very expensive product like this for. But it's a lot of fun. Go away, chubby guy. Let's go! See him go, man, Mr. Max Payne. There we go. Machine gun mode. Well, let's move on with the two-player configuration because we have two light guns over there, but it seems to be working all fine. This is absolutely like satisfying playing with two games or two light guns at the same time. And also this game seems to be running just fine. So it doesn't matter what we're going to be playing. There is no limitations when it comes to, let's say, the gameplay itself. They configured everything to a certain point that it runs just fine. Can we skip this? Great. And that's one of the things that I find very pleasant about this plug and play situation, is that you can just plug the sensor on your monitor and we can just play them without any problem. Alright. I know, but I was too late. Oh yep, I killed him. I messed up. That's a shame. Pandora Gun Max is absolutely a very cool piece of technology. When they're combining a Windows PC with controllers and light guns, this works absolutely plug and play. I had no issues whatsoever when it comes to connecting. I plugged in, let's say, the light guns and everything worked out of the box. The downside is that the controllers are very bad quality. I cannot really enjoy those games, and that should absolutely be improved. I've been messing with, let's say, one Xbox 360 wired controller that seems to be working, but again, I need to mess around with it with some multiple controllers for Play 1 and Play 2, because we do have the feature going back to the menu when pressing the joystick itself. The light guns are absolutely great overall quality. I love them. Like, they're quite big and kind of clunky, but they do play very comfortable in the long run. So having all of the buttons configured correctly for putting in a credit, starting the game, and etc. And the solenoid, oh boy, it's really nice.